everybody. This is Jean Andrus, and this is Menopause Matters. Today, I have with me Danielle Ralston, and Danielle is a master of alphabet soup, and we're not going to go through that today, but she is an ADHD coach for 25 years and counting, and she's worked with over 1,500 ADHD, ASD, and divergent brains between the ages of 10 and 70. She started this work to understand how her brain worked, and now she's doing the same for her clients worldwide. Danielle, welcome to Menopause Matters. It's so good to have you here today. Let's talk ADHD.
Thank you for having me. And yes, please, it's my favorite subject.
So let's talk, in fact, let's talk specifically menopause and ADHD. And this conversation grew out of some work that I was doing and some talks I had had with clients of mine who are being diagnosed now in their 40s and early 50s with ADHD. And I went looking for an expert so that I could sort of bounce my theories off. Danielle, why is it that so many women in their 40s, in their early 50s are seeing themselves diagnosed as ADHD? And what's that all about?
So, one, our hormones shift. When our hormones shift, they're tied to dopamine. Estrogen and progesterone are tied to our dopamine, and our dopamine is the thing that controls the chaos in our brain, the motivation in our brain. And then if those are off, then so is your cortisol, so is your endorphin, so are serotonin, so is all of the things. They're all tied together.
They certainly are. I've talked many times about how cortisol is sort of that control switch that kind of when it gets pegged on the high end, everything in our body goes crazy, and it gets pegged over there because estrogen and progesterone are no longer there acting. Just in my brain, I'm like, they're like mom and dad. They're keeping cortisol, the little bad hormone, from getting out of control. And it works that way in women, particularly. And then when menopause hits, they go down and cortisol gets out of its cage. And it runs our lives in a lot of cases.
So not only does it run our lives, it feels like it's ruining our lives because there is such a lack of understanding of how all of those things work together. And it's not just us as the women going through this that don't have the understanding. Even our doctors don't have the understanding that they need to help us navigate this. They tell us it's part of getting old, learn to accept it. It's you're going to go through menopause. Menopause sucks. Oh, well.
No, menopause does not have to suck.
It does not. And
ADHD,
you do not have to suffer.
Yes, ADHD does not have to take over your life. And the place in which menopause and ADHD kind of converge, and perhaps you weren't that incapable of that kind of focus and that kind of single-mindedness earlier in life, but now it feels like you can't get anything done. And we've talked about this in terms of multitasking, where you used to be able to go around the circle and pick up from where you left off, and now you get back to the first part of the circle and you have no idea why you're there. And you feel like the things that used to be easy, things that you used to be competent at, are not available to you anymore.
So they're not available to you, but it's part of why it's not available to you is it was a bad thing that we teach our girls from a young age, especially our young women in their 20s and 30s, that they must multitask, they must bounce around, they must be able to do 9,000 things in a day and do it all and have it all and all of this stuff. And we're burning them out. We're
Yeah.
burning them out fast. We're burning out their cortisol fast. We're burning out their adrenal system, which tied to cortisol, which burns out the dopamine, which burns out the all of the things. We're expecting an extreme ability to do things that we aren't built to do. And men are definitely not built to do it. So women can, and we can mask and we can make it happen for so long. But even that only happens for so long, and we burn
Yeah.
that ability out.
And we expect more of that ability. So maybe before, when it developed, hunter gatherers 50,000 years ago, I talk about it all the time. Maybe before it was possible to pick up all the little things around the camp. But now you add in a career, and a career that's high multitasking for most women, because there's so many careers that use that. As Danielle and I were talking about it, I used to do database administration, and that was all multitasking, and it was all going from one thing to another and coming back and knowing where you were when you left off. Well, doing that for 10 hours a day, or 8 hours a day, or 40 hours a week, or 100 hours a week, however many, doing the same thing as a school teacher or a nurse. You're just doing so much more of it than we used to do when our lives were a little more contained, controlled. And we could do that, and it wasn't awful, and it still was tough, but it was also kind of limited, because then all of a sudden your kids were off to school, so you had a little less. Yeah.
It's it's the extremes. Anything that we have to do in an extreme situation that we're overdoing to push ourselves to do is something that is going to cause us pain in the end. We're burning out something that we need in the end. In this case, there are so many things that we expect our young women to be able to do, and then we villainize them when they can't do it anymore.
So we hit our mid 40s, and all of a sudden we've burnt out our adrenals. Our adrenals are now being asked to also take over the residual production of our estrogen and progesterone. And that's not happening because we burnt out our adrenals, and we can't do it anymore. And on top of that, we stop people pleasing, because that's sort of built into what happens at this time of life. And so we're 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 damned if we don't, and we're damned if we don't, if we can't. Um, and it's very difficult.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's really, and so many women are feeling lost, distraught, um, like giving up. So
Mhm.
many women feel like giving up, or they find out that they're ADHD, and this makes so much sense because they've had something all of their life that's affecting them, and nobody's put a pinpoint on it, and it explains so much. But then they're looking at it going, why didn't somebody tell me? Why didn't somebody help? Why haven't I had what I needed to help me with this? And so many women, and this happens for women who have PCOS, who have that go through menopause, who get exhausted when they have kids and feel like they're losing it when they have children.
Fibromyalgia, uh, IBS, all of our autoimmune disorders, which come from a large deal from the same place. Fibro, not so much, but it all comes from this same. We're being expected to do too much, and we wind up with our bodies rebelling against it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So ADHD, we talked a little bit in the earlier in the podcast about some of the support, and we talked about supplements and nutrition, exercise, all of the things that go into a holistic health plan being the things that you need to do to support yourself under ADHD. And then it's not so much the drugs, It's just supporting your body through this.
It's supporting your body and healing your body through this,
Yeah.
because a big portion of it, if you don't heal, you're always operating from a broken standpoint. I think you in the podcast use the analogy of a broken leg. It's like expecting to run a marathon and win a marathon with a broken leg. You can't until you fix the broken leg. You're not going to function at your best. You're not going to feel able to even attempt to do anything if you're not fixing the root cause.
So, fixing the root cause, get yourself either a good functional medicine doctor, and what by a good one, I mean somebody who hears the word ADHD and says, "Oh, okay, let's look at the hormones behind that." And here's the word menopause and says, "Oh, let's look at the hormones behind that." And then get yourself a good health coach. Get yourself someone who understands this stuff, because we don't just teach it. It's not just out there in the ether. People like Danielle and myself have been studying and putting things together for a very long time.
Long before the medical community has. Long. I argued with a doctor 20 years ago about the tie between adrenals, dopamine, and estrogen, and they told me I was a crock.
At the age of 48, I went to see my gynecologist, and she said, "Oh, are you intimate with your boyfriend?" I between my divorce and my remarriage. And she said, "Oh, we need to do a test to see if you're still fertile." But in doing that, she never said the word menopause. She never said, "Oh, you better want, you might want to know about this." Our doctors don't really see it as their responsibility to explain it to us. And so we talked in the podcast about these are normal things. And these are things that you need to take into your life and say, how do I support myself best? Where does my best support come from in order to make this the best time of my life? Because it can be.
Absolutely can be.
And it takes starting with knowing it's normal and knowing that you can support yourself through it.
You can support yourself, and if you don't know how to, there are multiple ways to do that. I work with women through ADHD and helping them learn skills that they may not to manage their ADHD. As a health and ADHD coach, I come at it from one standpoint, and then you come at it from the menopause standpoint and walking them through all of that process, because honestly, you need somebody who does each of the things. And I'm always telling somebody asked me the other day, how do you find that you're successful now at this point in your life? I just turned 48. Well, no, excuse me, I turned 48 tomorrow.
Oh, happy birthday.
Well, thank you. And I said, I always have a coach on the thing that I need to be working on right now.
Mhm.
And I don't do it on my own. I don't even try to do it on my own. I don't try to hire the cheapest coach. I don't try to avoid investing in myself,
Investing in
because
yourself.
that investment in myself helped me find that I have a couple really major autoimmune disorders on top of my ADHD that affect my ADHD that I didn't even know were connected. And I've been doing this a long time. And by doing that, I was able to take my body to a much better level and not be in pain all the time and not be sick all the time and have these weird diagnoses that really mean zero because nobody's willing to actually dive into them and help you with the root cause. Looking at the root cause and working with a coach, and I've worked with hormone coaches, I've worked with menopause coaches, I've worked with life coaches and health coaches and ADHD coaches. Like, I find the coach that I need for the area of my life that I need right now in order to get to that next level and heal the root cause. Because that's what it's all about. It's about healing the root cause or understanding the root cause, whether you can heal it or not, because I'm ADHD. That's never going away. But understanding my root cause to everything, just that understanding has taken me to that next level of being able to heal myself.
Danielle, thank you so much. And I know we've been here a little bit of time, so I'm going to tell you that show notes will have all the information for you to get in touch with Danielle. And I am available at menopause.guru. Please reach out to someone if you need to understand how this affects you. This has been Menopause Matters. I'm your host, Sean Andrus, the Menopause Guru, and I've had with me today Danielle Ralston. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you.